Interstate 37 by C.K. Walker. Emily had finally had enough. I thought she was in too deep, staring up from beneath the waves, slowly drowning her in a sea of tragedy. But she'd finally had enough. Their fight had almost killed her. She'd called me at 4 a.m., begging for help, as he broke down the door that separated them. I drove as fast as I could from the next state over. I found her sitting on her porch. He'd left for work, she said, but he'd be back for lunch. She was covered in angry purple bruises and dried blood. She refused the hospital. She only wanted to escape. She threw all of her belongings, a single backpack, into the trunk and begged me to let her drive the car. I was tired, so tired, so I said yes. I would have fallen asleep next to her, I'm sure, if it wasn't for the desperate way that she drove, as if fleeing the devil himself. I sighed in relief when we hit the interstate. It was a flat, lonely road, but it led home. She seemed to have calmed down. Her eyes darted less frequently in the rearview mirror. Her breathing slowed and her body relaxed back into the seat. Her bruises were starting to turn brown at the edges. My eyes fluttered shut in long seconds of microsleep. I didn't feel the sudden jerk of the wheel or the violent swerve of the car, but I did feel the metal crush and the snap as the car hit the concrete guardrail on the other side of the highway. Surprisingly, I was mostly unhurt and could easily climb out of the passenger window, but Emily was pinned. She murmured that we must hide or he'll find us. I looked down the empty stretch of the sunburned highway, and I knew no one was coming. Not him. Not help. I gently released her body from the wreckage and pulled her out onto the road. She was able to walk, although she was slow and carried a limp. We had few options. Our phones were lost in the twisted metal of our misshapen car. And so we walked. We limped along for almost a mile in silence before she broke it. "He's coming," she whispered. "He knows. He knows it was you I called. He's going to hurt us both, and then he's going to drag me home." I could only hug her and tell her not to worry. I prayed that help would soon come. It was hours before we heard another car on the road. Sirens preceded 2 ambulances by minutes, but soon we saw them racing towards us under a hot midday sun. The first one screaming by as if chased by demons. The second ambulance passed a few minutes later, unhurried, subdued. I tried to flag it down, but the driver never even looked at me. He didn't even slow, and I ran after him. I am yards away before I notice that Emily isn't following. I turned to see her standing where I left her, staring at the retreating ambulances. Her face is a distressing shade of white in contrast to the plum-colored bruise around her left eye. I turned to look back at the quiet ambulance as it disappears over the horizon. "That was us," I hear her whisper. But when I turn back around, she's gone. My heart plummets down into my stomach because there is nowhere for her to go. I turn back to the ambulance, but it's gone. The horizon turned dark, even though it's barely noon. The air around me has chilled, and the only sound is my labored breathing. I pull the sweatshirt tighter around my shoulders. "That was us," she'd said. And then I realized what she meant. And then I come to the understanding which ambulance is mine.